Hello. I am starting the broadcast just to check on the audio a little bit early because I've had some challenges with that before. So I'm just going to mess around. I am starting. There it goes. Turn down. Okay, is this working? I'm watching on my other screen. Okay, looks like it's working. Okay, I am going to wait a few more minutes since it's not quite 9 o'clock yet. But if you are joining me, I'm sorry, I have a really bad sinus infection or cold or laryngitis or something like that. And so I'm but I am going to still do this. So, as we're waiting for others to join in, if you're already here, thank you for joining us. If you could just type your name into the chat feature so that I know who is attending, that would be really helpful. Hi, Janine. Hi, Lily. I might be the third person. Just make sure. Okay, it's the same. So, as you can tell, my voice is mostly non existent, uh, but I am going to do my best to talk to you guys and give you some helpful information about the group projects. Um, I think both of your groups are doing pretty well. If you have specific questions, please feel free to ask, and I will try to address them as best I can. We'll just wait a few more minutes. Do you think it's going to snow tomorrow? I really hope not. I'm done with winter and I'm ready for spring. I need to drink more tea. I know. It's a good question. Okay. What's the best way to do your part in the group while also making sure that everyone in the group also agrees with your take on the assignment? So, are you working with someone else on your part? Or are you working solo on your part? Okay. So, does your group have a like pre-deadline for submitting work? I think the best thing to do would be to do your part as much as you can and post it to the discussion board or file exchange or Google Doc to. Um, okay, great. Yeah. All right. So yeah, I think that having even posting prior to the deadline and just saying, "Hey, this is what the direction I'm going. Does anybody have any feedback? Does this make sense to anybody else?" And just asking for feedback, I think would be really helpful. But yeah, so rather than just waiting until the deadline to post your part of the project, do your part of the project as much as you feel like you should before getting feedback. Post that and say, do you think that I'm going in the right direction? And then give me feedback before tomorrow because I'm going to start working on it again, or whenever you're going to start working on it again, and then move forward and kind of see how it's going. I think the best group that I've seen have discussion around this is one that is using a Google Doc, and so people are posting it and able to make comments on the different sections of the paper and see kind of it in live action as people are working on their parts of the project. So that helps. But that, excuse me, also groups who have posted kind of sections of their paper to the discussion board. So rather than even as an attachment, just posting it, like copy and pasting it within the discussion board, and then people making comments or giving feedback on that part of that section and being able to make some adjustments around that. So I think there are some ways for you to get feedback on your section of the paper. You might also just ask if anybody wants to share their part with you. If you know maybe the person that's working on the introduction or the person that's working on the part that comes after yours, and you're just like, can I see where you're going to see if you're comparable? Not necessarily after the final product yet, but it'll give you some insight. Does that help? Okay, good. All right. Any other questions from you guys since you're here? And if you've joined the webcast and you haven't typed your name in yet, can you please type your name in so that I can see who's here? Okay, so I am gonna go over a couple of things that I think will be helpful for the project, and please feel free to type comments at any time I'm watching the chat so I can interject or ask me to repeat something or to kind of go in a different direction. But what I'd like to do is point out some of the things that some groups have a hard time with, and just some reminders for how to work together, and then take questions. So for the if you look at the overview of the group project, the actual project guidelines, one of the things I just want to remind people is that the actual group portion of the project is only 50 points of your overall total grade. And so that's like 5%, which is not that much. And so a lot of people are very stressed out about how much other people's work is going to impact them. So it will impact you to a certain degree, but I've put in enough other components to the project that your work should be representative of the grade that you receive. And hopefully you'll be able to encourage and interact with your peers well, so that they're motivated to turn in quality work. Um, and also to know that getting the same grade on a project is something that is pretty common when you move into the workplace and you have to work on a team or rely on other people. You can't, you have to allow other people to do their work, or else you're going to be super stressed out all the time and taking over and micromanaging and things like that. And you don't want to do that. So hopefully that provides a little bit of just release for knowing that it's not such a huge part of your grade. So saying that, you tonight have the group update due, and then just continual group discussion board and your first group discussion board. Those things are already passed or will be due tonight. And then your individual paper and reflection is kind of the main part that you are doing. So I'm going to go over that in just a few minutes. Before the group project, one of the biggest thing that I'm just reminding groups is that every group needs to turn in one combined paper as a group. So one person needs to turn it in, and it's really important that everybody in the group agrees who that person's going to be, and that you have some process for approving the final draft before it gets submitted. And so that probably means that you need prior deadlines. It sounds like those of you that are viewing do, but if someone's gonna you post it all by Sunday, and then someone's putting it all together, and then Monday night they post it, uh, kind of asking everybody to read it and say, yes, I agree, yes, this looks good on Tuesday so that it can be submitted, I think is a fair ask for everyone in the group. And one of the reasons is because sometimes some people are stronger writers in the group than others. And so the person putting the edits together may need to change some of the work that someone else put in. And that's not necessarily a bad thing or a cut on the other person or anything like that. It's just that the paper needs to read and flow in consistency. It needs to have the same font. It needs to have the same person. So it's either first person or third person or second person, right? So you don't want it to switch tenses throughout the paper. You want it to stay very consistent, so that it looks like a cohesive project. And so that person putting it together really has to look at that flow and may need to change a couple things around or add some transition statements in between each part of the project and things like that. And so it's helpful to ask for feedback before you submit that, so that someone's not caught off guard that their work was changed. And also just to know that if somebody does alter what you've written a little bit, not to take it personally, but that they're trying to do the best thing that they can for the group. And so that's important to remember. Um, by far, the biggest thing that groups have done consistently is forgetting to use internal documentation inside their paper. And so, within the three major sections of the paper, you do need to be citing your sources of why you've made the choices that you're making and linking them to the specific culture or organization that you are working within. And so making sure that you have articles or websites that are credible, that you're pulling that information from and citing those within your paper as well as in the works cited page. So one easy check for that is whoever's doing the final edit or just in your section is to look at the works cited and make sure that if something is in the works cited page, that it's actually referred to in the paper. So if there's something in the works cited that doesn't have an internal documentation somewhere in the paper, then it's either missing or you need to take that source off of the works cited because you didn't use it. So just make sure that that matches up and that you have quality sources. Um, for the paper, it says 3 to 5 pages, and you are including that artwork in there, and so it's kind of easy to get to 3 pages really easily. So if it goes a little bit over 5 pages, that's fine, especially including the citations and the pictures and the artwork and things like that. So you really want to be thorough. If you're giving me a 10 to 15 page document, I don't really want to read all of that, but you do want to connect it in a deeper way. Hi, Faye. Um, let's see, what's next? Um, what I'm most interested in seeing in each of the sections. So I think the lobby reception area is pretty clear because I asked for 2 to 4 colors, I asked for a picture, those types of things. But make sure that you are connecting it again to the culture and why you've chosen those things. And then as far as the office space goes, again, why did you pick an open office floor plan for this particular business or for this particular country or city? Why why did you have comfortable chairs or why did you have those bouncy ball things for people to sit on? Like, why did you make those choices? So whatever uh, whatever your choices are just need to be backed up with reason and hopefully connected to interpersonal communication. So how does the space foster nonverbal communication or verbal communication in a way that builds relationships or helps the company meet their goal? How might this company want to show either their like laid backness or their entertainment value or their attention to detail or their precision, right? Whatever things you're trying to convey as a company should come through in the layout and the office design space. And you want that to be clear. You've spent a lot of time thinking about that, but I haven't. And so as I'm reading your paper, I want you to lay out for me why you made those choices. And with the entertaining client section, that's really talking about those relationships that you're going to be you're going to be building, and that's I think a little bit easier to see how that connects with the interpersonal communication. But you again want it to be back up with research and think about the most effective ways. And I don't expect you to answer every single question that's in that section. Right on the second bullet point says consider the following: what is important? Nice office furniture, soda, snacks, coffee, alcohol, take them out, fancy dinner, restaurant, lunch, business, da da da. Those are just things to get you thinking about what you might want to address. I don't expect you to address them all. So, whatever you find most interesting or compelling about that region of the world or that type of corporation, those are the things that you're going to want to hone in on and give me some examples of how that might look for you in your company and how that comes across to other people. And then the intro and conclusion should tie it all together. So that's the kind of feedback that I'm looking or what I'm looking for that combined section of the paper. So I'm going to pause there and just see if there's any questions that you would like for me to clarify or go into deeper. Okay, so it doesn't look like there's any questions about that section of the paper. Um, every group is working together a little bit differently. So some groups, How should the final paper be formatted? Just normal MLA? Yes. Please uh, just do formal MLA double space paper. I think it'd be easiest to have your introduction paragraph and then label lobby reception area, have that section, label layout design, have that section area, label entertaining clients, have that section area. Uh, conclusion and works cited, just so it's clear what the different parts are. But as long as it's consistent throughout with the font and tense and voice and all of that, then that's going to be good as far as the format goes, and the documentation should be MLA. And yes, please double space it because that makes it a lot easier for me to grade. Other questions about that? Okay, so I was talking a little bit about the group dynamics and interactions, and every group is very different in the way that you are interacting. Some love using the discussion board and have been able to use that. You're welcome. Very well. Others have had a hard time organizing the discussion board and are having a hard time figuring out kind of how to move forward. So I've found that when several people are confused, or if you're confused, sending a group email, these are my specific questions, can get you a response, and then you can clarify how you want to use the discussion board, or if you're using Google Docs or sending a group text, so that there's more direct communication around that, so that you can move forward. Um, I also think that as group members, this is the last week of the project, and so everybody's anxiety is going to be a little bit higher and wondering what other people are doing, and if they have their part done, and when you're going to do yours, and all that. And so, if you can check the group discussion board or the Google Doc or the group text once a day, not 10 times a day, but just once a day, and read and respond to anything that is up there, that can help alleviate some stress from your group members and just help keep you all kind of moving on the same page. And so that's something that I would encourage you to do this week, and maybe even encourage your other group members to do. So send out a message to your group and just say, hey guys, let's all check in once a day and just give each other updates like, I'm working on my part tomorrow, or I found this resource, or I'm really wanting feedback on my section of the project, whatever it is. It can be quick, but something just to let everybody know that you're on the same page. Does anybody on the chat have questions about working with your group members? Okay, I don't see any questions about that, but if they come up or you want to ask them, feel free to write them in the chat and I will discuss them. So I'm going to move on to the individual portion of the paper, which also sometimes creates some confusion for people. Did someone from group 6? What happens if there's... Okay. Yeah, so similar question. Did someone leave the group, and what if someone doesn't participate? So, to my understanding, everybody that's had a group member leave their group has been contacted. So, group 6, everybody is still in that group. If there's somebody in the group that is not participating, if there's a couple of ways to handle that. In your individual paper, there is a reflection portion at the bottom, so that after you write your individual section, you're going to reflect on the project. So in there, you can say, Joe Schmo did not participate in the group project. That will help me. just to know that. Another way to do that is to, in the final submission of the paper, kind of as a footnote or at the end, if everybody agrees to it, to say, you know, Sally Lou did not participate in the group project. We just, so their name would still be on the paper, but at the bottom you would say, we just want to let you know that this person did not contribute to the final product. So I think that would probably be the best way to move forward, actually. I mean, definitely write about it in your reflection and how that impacted you. But at the bottom of the paper, if there is anybody that didn't participate, just please designate that. And then they'll see that as well, which I think is important because it's going to impact them. Does that sound like something you could do? Okay. I know it's hard to call out people in your group and you don't want to like put, yeah, it's hard to call people out, but it's helpful to know, right, what's going on. So it can be frustrating. And there you do have this week to maybe do something. Um, but yeah. Okay. So I'm going to talk about the individual paper. Yes? Okay. So the individual portion of the paper has two parts. The second part, which is pretty easy, is what I was just talking about, which is the reflection. And so for that section, you're basically just talking about how you felt the group worked together, what you learned about yourself, and how you would move forward in a group project in the future. Um, so just basically don't forget to do that because it's easy to forget it. But you just, or you either have already or you will be in a few hours submitting the group update. So it's going to be very similar to that, but it'll be more personal. So not what did I contribute, but what did I learn in the process? Was there anything about communicating in an online group that you liked, didn't like, were surprised by, were reaffirmed in? What was that about you in this process, and what might you take forward into future classes? And so it could be as specific as developing leadership skills or learning how to give online feedback or something like that. So just really think about what you want to take away from it because most students do not like doing online group projects, and so you try to make the most of it to get more out of it. um, Okay, so the main part of the individual project is you getting to design your personal office space within the organization and industry that your group was assigned. And so that's the biggest detail that students have trouble with in the past is remembering that their office space is a part of the organization that your group was assigned. And so some people just write like, oh, in my office, I would put this and this, but don't attach it to how that would come across in that particular culture, region of the world, or in that business. Because I would decorate my office differently in my current job at Wake Tech than I did at my previous job working at a church, right? It's just a different culture, a different climate. And so I have to think about how I decorate my office space based on the organization that I work for. So I want you to do the same. So very similar to the combined project, you're going to look at identifying two artifacts or pieces of artwork that you think are representative of you. So it could be art that has a quote on it. It could be abstract. It could be something that is like a tangible, like a paperweight or something that's significant, or it could be like a figurine or like a bobblehead or something that you think is significant to you or your culture, right? So could be something like a big painting or quote or something like that. But I want you to use Amazon.com, art.com, or Etsy mainly for copywriting purposes, and it just narrows down your search and you can find some really good things there. So stick to those sites and think about how what you're finding connects with you, your cultural identity, and what you want other people to know about you. And so this is a chance for self reflection and connection with others. So you're going to post those and you're going to describe for both of them why you chose them and what that's going to represent to other people. Um, just two little bullet points on here. Just make sure that your links are live. You can copy the artwork directly into the paper, but for this you can just use the links if you would like to do that as well instead. But don't use any of the same artwork that you use for the group project. Well, because one that just really looked good in an office space and it doesn't show a lot of thought, and so you want to look at unique artwork. And if you need a reminder of your cultural identity, you could go back to lesson 3, where we talked about culture and you did the cultural identity worksheet. And really thinking about who you are, and you did a group discussion post on that as well. I think I just got a ding. I'm going to check my email real quick. Okay. So that's the individual portion of the project. So you're going to submit that yourself and you don't have to share that with your group members. Does anybody have any questions about the individual portion of the project? Okay. So that's really what I would like to share with you tonight. But I would like to give anybody that's here and a chance to give me feedback on the project, how it's set up, how I'm interacting with the groups. So if you have any comments that you think would be helpful for future students or just for me in general in helping navigate the group project, feel free to type them out here and I can either address that or just acknowledge some of the things that you're facing. Okay. Well, thank you all for participating. Okay, here we go. Yeah. So one of the things that I'm thinking about is creating different forums for the groups before they get started. So, one of the most effective groups set up very clear discussion boards. So, I was thinking of doing the introduction and then having another forum for group leadership, another forum for dividing tasks, and then another forum for each of the tasks so that people would know specifically where to post their comments about those things, and then maybe one that's like deadlines. What do you think? Do you think it would be helpful if you had some preset forums? have been helpful. Sorry, that's what I'm noticing and learning along the way with you all. But I think okay, I think I will try to do that for next semester, just to pre-populate some of those things, and so I need to make a note of that. Is there anything else that you can think of that's been frustrating that I could maybe do a better job? No, I don't take that in a bad way at all. It's a learning process. It's okay. Yeah. Um, but can you think of anything else that you're like, oh, I wish this has could have gone better because that can help me maybe in the future as well? Mm, yeah, yeah. Because some groups being able to use like a blog, so you could post your section, like everybody could post their section to the blog and get comments on it. Like that would be a way a group could use that. Um, so don't want to like limit the options, but maybe it's too overwhelming if I provide too many options. So file sharing and the discussion board and the email might be enough for that for the group. I wish that Google Docs was embedded in Blackboard somehow, but it's not. I think that would be helpful. Yeah, only discussion board and email. Yeah, I think that's the most consistent thing that people are using. Um, so that might be enough. You think it's better to have less options? Oh, yeah. I guess I could post these are some ways to use the different features. So maybe like an introduction to that within like the group folder. Like here are the functionalities of the different things in a group and how you could use them and give some examples. That would probably help people rather than having to figure it out on their own. That's a good suggestion too, Lily. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Faye. I think that's an important point. That's a good point. Anything else? Yeah, I actually don't really know what the task option is either. I think you can create things that you can like kind of like a checklist, um, but I'm not really sure about that functionality. But the wiki is cool because you can comment on each other's and it's kind of like a Google document where you can live update that. And so I think that was what I was thinking with providing the wiki option is that it's something that you can all collaborate on rather than posting a draft of a document, getting feedback, posting another draft, and kind of sometimes, it's hard to know which draft you're working on. But if you're doing a live document like a wiki, then it can be easier to know where you are in that process. Um, but yeah, an about for the tools I think would be helpful. And that's a great suggestion. Yeah, I know it's a little bit too late, huh? I mean, it's a week left, so you probably already have a process, but there are some tools there that are available for you if you want to try to use them or just test them out. Um, but also know about those for other groups and other group projects you might have in other classes too. Anything else? Well, thank you all very much for your feedback and participation. I hope that the stuff that I shared was helpful and encouraging to you in your putting this together. I look forward to reading the projects. As you can see, I'm losing my voice and a little bit under the weather, and so I'm not like sad or mad or anything like that. So I'm hoping I feel better soon. And I hope you all have a good night and a good week. You're welcome.